Hi, I'm Emily, and I'll be teaching you the difference between must not and don't have to. Let's start with must not. We use must not or mustn't when we're talking about an obligation not to do something that is prohibited or forbidden. For example, we could say, you must not drive without a license, or you mustn't drive without a license. This is an obligation not to drive unless you have a license. So you must not drive without a license. Or another obligation, not to be late. We must not be late. Or we mustn't be late. We have an obligation not to be late. We could also say, I must not forget my lunch. Or I mustn't forget my lunch. This is a personal obligation. It's like saying, I shouldn't forget my lunch. I don't want to forget my lunch. I can't forget my lunch. I mustn't forget my lunch. There's no alternative. It's, I must not forget my lunch. In another example, we could say, we must not run inside the school, because running in the school is not allowed. You'll notice that we can't use must in the past tense, must not in the past tense. Therefore, if we want to say something about not running in the school in the past tense, we have to say something like, running was against the rules, or we couldn't run, or running was forbidden, or running was prohibited, or we weren't allowed to run. So this is how you would use it, express the same idea in the past tense. Now, mustn't and must not is not the same as doesn't have to or don't have to. It's completely different in meaning. We use don't have to or doesn't have to express something that's optional, something that we are not obliged to do. So for example, if someone says, you don't have to smile, that means that you can smile, but you don't have to. You're not obliged to smile, but you can smile if you want. Or, you don't have to wear a tie. Wearing a tie is not necessary, but you can wear a tie if you want. You don't have to wear a tie. You're welcome or allowed not to wear a tie. You don't have to wear it. If someone says, I don't have to go to school today, that means that they are not obliged to go to school. They're not prohibited from going to school. They're just not obliged to go today. You can also use don't have or doesn't have in the past tense. So you can say something like, you didn't have to buy me flowers. This means you weren't obliged to buy me flowers. It wasn't necessary for you to buy me flowers. In another example, you could say, he didn't have to cook dinner. He went to a restaurant, so he didn't need to cook dinner. He wasn't obliged to cook dinner. He didn't have a responsibility to cook dinner. He didn't have to cook dinner. I hope you've learned the difference between must not and have to, and I'd welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback. Thanks for listening.